When we thought the chaos was finally done on the House floor, it appears that Speaker Mike Johnson is facing pushback from the conservative wing of his own conference. What is up, people of the internet? It is me, Real American, back in with a new video today. It is time that we talk about the chaos that is unfolding on Capitol Hill, because everyone, I thought we were done with this BS of we're going to change the speakership every 5 seconds. Because I thought we got a good speaker here. Mike Johnson, liked by everybody, has a good record, and seems like a very smart dude. No, it turns out the chaos isn't over. And there have been some rumblings that Speaker Johnson could be thrown out. You cannot make this up. Now, before we continue with today's video, I hope you enjoy these type of videos. If you do, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, hit that little bell, follow the social media accounts in the description down below, and of course, join the channel today. Guys, just for $1 a month, you could join Real American. This is the best way to support the daily content that we all know and love. So I hope and recommend you join the channel today. Alright, everybody. Now let me be clear. I'm not saying it's 100% Johnson gets thrown out, but how some of these people are talking, I wouldn't be shocked. And I swear, if this does happen, I have many words to say to certain people, but let's get into it because it's unbelievable. We're even considering this. So McCarthy gets 8 months to suck, and Johnson gets 2 months of being solid. But Johnson gets thrown out? What? So let's get into it. Let's look at what some of these people are saying on Capitol Hill, because from what I've read, and there's some people that are not surprises on this list, just be prepared for cringe. That's all I'm going to say. Speaker Mike Johnson is edging closer to the same sort of clash with conservatives that helped bring down his predecessor, Kevin McCarthy. The brewing storm, crystallized by Johnson's comments during a Wednesday meeting with GOP senators, is threatening to end what is left of the Republicans' honeymoon running the House. On his right flank, some members are already asking behind closed doors whether Johnson might meet the same fate as deposed McCarthy, though other GOP lawmakers see that speculation as bluster. Unfrickin' believable. So McCarthy screwed us so many times in 9 months, but they didn't want him removed. Johnson supposedly did one bad thing because he said something wrong, and now we must throw him out. Just some of the people in the GOP, I don't know where the hell they come from, but they're clearly not smart to understand, hey, the Democrats own the Senate. I say run or own because they do. I mean, you got Mitch McConnell running the Republican side over there. That's not really an opposition. You got President Biden, and you got a small House majority. Gee, did you expect everything to be done right away? These dunces are just... I don't know what to say to some of these people. The fact they're elected to the House of Representatives is unbelievable. Johnson antagonized conservatives most acutely by engaging in policy talks with fellow leaders, rather than pushing exclusively for base-pleasing wins that won't survive in the Senate. But he did give the base what we wanted. January 6 tapes. It shows a lot, but guess what? He did that in a month, while McCarthy didn't do it in 9 months. Nobody complains about that. But they complain about Johnson taking a month to do so? That traditional approach won't hurt Johnson with most of the GOP. But as McCarthy's ouster made clear, it only takes a handful of fed-up members to make a speaker's life difficult. The new speaker showcased his willingness to stand up to conservatives, as well as his limits, during his visit to the Senate. Inside the room, he delivered 2 messages. They would call up an extension of government funding through the end of the fiscal year if lawmakers can't reach a deal, and that he wants to see much of the House's conservative border policy as part of any potential Senate agreement to aid Ukraine. Now, the first part wait and see on that one, you know. I think he's setting something up for us to get something out of it. You know, how he did it was there's two parts of it, which, mind you, the House Freedom Caucus proposed 3 years ago. Everybody forgets about that. But either way, the budget stuff, we gotta wait and see. Just see how it goes, see how Johnson does it. But on the border stuff, let's be real. Would you rather have $10 billion more to Ukraine, which again, I'm against Ukraine aid, but you get the border bill, like a conservative one? Or do you want $50 billion to Ukraine and no border security? That's kind of how I'm seeing it. It might be a bit more, but I would much rather take a significant change to border security that actually does something, but some aid to Ukraine. I just would. The fact that this is somehow controversial is unbelievable. Do you think that McCarthy would have just bent over backwards and given them $50 billion to Ukraine for nothing? Johnson's at least saying, we want to make sure this aid is not being pocketed by somebody over there, and we get something down at the border. Because if we're sending money to Ukraine, we should have enough money to be sending to the border. The fact some people cannot understand that is unbelievable. Again, I don't like more aid to Ukraine, but if it gets us something with the border, I'll take it. Johnson's stance on government funding isn't quite new. House Republican leaders have indicated that they wouldn't pursue more patches and have no interest in a shutdown at the start of an election year. His hard line on border talks amounts to a major setback for the Senate's bipartisan work. Still, the GOP frustration with him goes beyond the Freedom Caucus. He continues to play games, a livid Max Miller said in an interview. We're talking about a man who 30 days ago said that he was against CR. We are talking about a man 30 days ago that was anti-Ukraine funding. It shows me he was never really morally convicted in his positions to begin with. Oh, shut up. Guys, can you people understand? All right, I'm talking about like these Max Miller types. Do you understand? There's a big fat difference between what McCarthy was trying to push in Democrats 3 years ago for Ukraine aid and what Johnson's trying to do. He's just trying to get something out of it because, like, what do you have to work with? He has no, well, I should say no leverage, but he has nothing to start with. McCarthy did jack shit for 10 months, and Johnson has to get something done. As Speaker of the House, again, do you really think border security is going to be passed without any kind of catches? Do you really think that was happening? Listen, you could have done that in May of this year, right? You could have done this 6 months ago. McCarthy didn't. And now we're in the pickle of, we got to get something. Because Senate Democrats, they're not going to want anything. They're going to want anything to do with border security if it doesn't have aid to Ukraine. And even many Republicans. Sad to say, but true. Miller, an ally of McCarthy and former President Trump, called Johnson a joke, describing the Speaker's decision to attach IRS cuts to Israel aid to a slap in the face to every Jew. What? Hold on. One of the most recognized, or I would say the most talked about parts of the Republican platform of last year was, we're going to cut the IRS funding because Biden's created $65 billion more to the IRS. That was the whole Republican's pitch. And now you're mad that he's going to cut it in exchange for aid to Israel? And this is the problem with many of these asshats in the House. They don't understand. Compromise sucks at times, but would you rather have the IRS gutted on top of the $65 billion or whatever that was increased last year that the Republicans ran on, and in return get aid to Israel, or nothing? He also called it a effing dumb choice that sets a precedent of tying domestic policy to foreign aid. The deficit hawks, everybody. They care so much about the deficit. But when one guy proposes, hey, let's get rid of this unpopular funding to the IRS, like 80 billion or whatever, in exchange we'll pay it for Israel, to help the Israeli people. Oh, suddenly we can't do that. We have to run up the deficit even further. He made clear that his complaint stemmed from the speaker's decision to not take up funding bills this week, as a shutdown deadline looms. Other conservatives characterized their frustration with Johnson in gentler but clearer terms. The former chief of the Conservative Freedom Caucus said that while he sees improvement in Johnson compared to McCarthy, he wouldn't give Johnson a great grade right now myself. Biggs likened Johnson's grade so far to grammar school categories of needing improvement and unsatisfactory results. Chip Roy put it more... good lord, Chip Roy. Describes Johnson's performance rating as plummeting. Yeah, you can't make this up. Where was this when McCarthy screwed us? Remember, Chip Roy kept McCarthy. I don't want to hear a word from this asshole. I mean, what do you mean that it's plummeting? He got us January 6 tapes, and he's potentially setting up a big victory in February when it comes to funding. How can you rate it now when you gave McCarthy 8 months and you refused to get rid of him? Speaker Johnson's views have not changed, a spokesperson said in a statement. He'll continue fighting to stop the flow of illegal immigrants and illicit drugs through our wide-open southern border, demand accountability for any aid to Ukraine, and ensure the foreign intelligence aid law known as Section 702 is reformed to prevent abuses from ever occurring again. The wrath toward Johnson is by no means universal on the right, which shared his recent move to release footage from the January 6th riot. And that's what many of these quote-unquote MAGA conservatives are talking about. Not really Andy Biggs. He's, he fine. He gives a valid critique of, he's far better than McCarthy, but, it needs improvement. That's one thing. But for Chip Roy to say he is doing terrible, and Max Miller to say, how dare he cut the deficit? Some of these complaints are stupid. I'm glad, however, you got people like Jim Jordan saying that Johnson's doing a good job so far. Considering what he started with, he's doing a hell of a lot better than McCarthy ever did. More than whatever McCarthy was supposedly going to do for the conservative agenda. What did McCarthy do in 10 months? Nothing. He gave Democrats everything they wanted. Johnson so far got us January 6 tapes. Potentially, we got to see how this goes in February, a big victory on the spending. We just got to see what happens, but my goodness. The fact that we're even talking about ousting Johnson this soon, when we gave McCarthy 9 months, Johnson should get 9 months as well to prove himself, not 2. Like some of these people are claiming, oh, he only needs 2 months. Really? When McCarthy had set up possibly the worst situation for any replacement, it doesn't matter who the replacement was, they weren't in a good situation. They weren't. And Johnson, well, he's trying something. But we just got to see what happens. Anyways, folks, thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, hit that little bell, follow the social media accounts in the description down below, and of course, join the channel today. Thank you so much. Godspeed to all of you.